House Bill 5302, sponsored by Chairwoman Williams. It's an act related to human services, abused and neglected children. DCYF to consider placement of any child with family prior to foster care. If the foster care, then family of child's heritage receives preference. You may proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This act would require DCYF and the family court to initially consider the placement of a child under their care with the child's immediate family members or next of kin before placement in foster care. The department shall devote at least 2 weeks to the task of identifying immediate family members or next of kin. Children who are put in these situations are already being traumatized by being removed from their parents. The transition would be far easier for a child if immediate family members or next of kin are utilized for the foster care rather than a stranger. We must make these terrible situations for children as easy as possible to accept, and this is only possible through putting these children with family members, if possible, and suitable to the well-being of the child. In the event that placement of the child in the care of immediate family members or next of kin of child is deemed inappropriate, placement with permanent or foster families of the child's ethnic, cultural, or racial heritage shall receive preference. This will also help ease trauma suffered by children who have been removed from their parents and who have no other family to suitably care for them. Seeing and interacting with a friendly and caring face, often that looks like those of those children, will go a long way toward minimizing the damage done to these vulnerable children. Have to understand, the intent of this bill is clear. At least to me, it's very clear. And it's also, from experience, the culture of DCYF, when we talk about trafficking children and abusing children or putting children in abusive situation, DCYF ranks top #1 out of the ballpark. And they have not done their due diligence at all. Now, that's not to say that there aren't good workers at DCYF, committed and caring individuals, but there are some bad seeds that's making the good ones look just as bad as them, and they need to be removed for the sake of the children that they have been abusing for years on top of years. We have individuals in that department that's been in those positions for over 2 decades that are running amok of that department and are utilizing our children and not utilizing for their benefit, and I will use the word trafficking because that's exactly what they have been doing and getting away with it for years. So if there's any questions on that one, I'll answer them, but.
Good evening, Chairwoman.
Good evening.
I like the intent of your bill. I'm going to ask some questions that are probably very obvious, and the answers may be very obvious, but just taking a quick scan and not being a lawyer, obviously, of this bill, I just want to bring a couple of things up, if I may. So the DCYF would do an investigation into the background of the family to see if there are any family members.
Yes, what they should be doing and they don't do, and that started about 20 years ago. A family member, DCYF had removed a child. A family member stepped forward and said that they wanted to, the person was qualified, everything, but they, because they do what they want to do, chose to put that family in someone else's care. And by that, we asked them to change the rules, and they didn't. But
so I'm kind of asking the opposite of this. If they find a family member who they feel may be appropriate, but that family member does not want to to foster that child, you're not saying DCYF would force that family member to foster that child.
Not at all. If
Okay,
that's the
'cause-
only family member that has been located, now if there's others, then that's fine. If
But-
they are not, if they are the only ones,
Right.
DCYF does the next thing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as placing children with individuals of similar cultural background, I think that's also a good idea. If it were, though, if there was a situation that presented itself where there would be someone not of that cultural background who may have more appropriate financial or familial abilities to raise that child, as opposed to someone who would be of that cultural background but may not have those abilities. What then?
That would be a decision between that next of kin and that potential.
No, it wouldn't be next of kin.
If I'm the kin that don't have the means to be able to, I want to take this child, but I
No.
don't have the financial means to take.
Let's say there was no next of kin.
Okay.
So now we're talking about the cultural preference, which I would agree with, but the individuals may not have the same resources as someone who may not be of the same cultural background.
That's my next bill.
Oh, I guess I'm ahead of you. Okay. Thank you, Chairwoman Williams.
I do believe I understand exactly what
All
you're
right,
saying.
I anxiously await the next bill.
Okay.
Well, if there's no further questions, then we'll move on. We'll conclude testimony in House Bill 5302.